Hello and welcome to this, let's say, special edition of the SEO Club podcast. I'm joined by Warren, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what's been going on. So, there has been quite a lot going on this year, not particularly in August, and I thought that I'd introduce you to Warren in a different way also. So, not a lot of people know this, but Warren and I actually met on a panel. When was that, Warren? Last year, the year before?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and I was really impressed with Warren's knowledge, his etiquette, the way that he spoke, how he was able to reason, his love for technology, but most importantly, his love for Marvel characters and all of those little characters you had on your shirt, right?
Yes, yes.
So,
I don't have my tour mug right now. I would showcase it for sure.
so definitely, one SEO recognizes another. At the end of the day, I think that the best SEOs are we're all a bunch of nerds just geeking out all over all of the new technology which comes out. And we also have a love and passion for other niche objects also, such as, I don't know, Warhammer collections and cards and these kinds of, let's say, niche attributes. So it's really great to be talking about this with Warren. And yeah, it's been a crazy year. So since we met, Warren, I mean, we've been talking about and chattering about things, and it seems as though every time we have a chat, something new comes out. I mean, there was that Rabbit AI which came out at one point in time, which we thought was going to have an impact, but then we saw what the actual product was, and it wasn't that great. Although there still is a lot of potential, there were these, let's say, mobile ring devices which are coming out, and things which are really, really changing the game. So, yeah, how about you just tell us a little bit about what's been going on for you personally within the last year? Because it's been quite a chaotic year since Google started releasing these updates.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's been a year of update after update. So, I mean, we're working in very specific niches here in iGaming in Malta. So, we're not really exposed to everything that Google is pushing forward. But I think it's been the biggest change in a long number of years. Probably the biggest one I remember before this that caused a bit of commotion was the Medic update. However, it seems that it's not only Google search that's changing, it's even the expectations and user behavior of people using the internet. So you mentioned Rabbit AI, and there's tons of other AI tools coming out. And I mean, just last week, Google unveiled their new smartphone, Pixel, and it's basically a Gemini phone. So they're integrating AI in the everyday devices, and we're just starting to see that. So what we've seen so far is like the introduction of the technology, kind of certain use cases for how you can use generative AI to generate text, to process data, to generate images. And now we're seeing that shift in how AI is going to integrate in our day to day devices. So, for example, in Google Pixel, we now see Gemini integrated pretty much fully with the Google Assistant on the smartphone. So suddenly this AI has access to your data. It can check your calendar, set your appointments, message people. And we're seeing, I think that will bring about a shift in how people will engage with search engines, with other platforms, in how they are consuming content, how they are interacting with their devices. So it's been already a lot of changes from a Google algorithm perspective. We've also just seen a core algorithm drop. However, I think the biggest change is still to come as the technology progressively gets better. We're still in the infancy of how AI is going to impact our lives, barely scratching the surface at this point. And the learning models will progressively get better, be less prone to hallucination. And if these big tech companies keep investing in them, which it seems that's what they're doing, we see even hardware companies like Nvidia developing chips that are specific to AI. We see Apple and Google having neural processors on their devices specifically for AI. So I don't think it's something that is just a fad. Maybe in the form that it is right now, a lot of people would argue that it's not really useful. And in most cases, I would tend to agree. But if it's going to facilitate the lives of people, then the way that we interact with technology will definitely change.
And we'll definitely, at the end of this podcast, after going through the search results as they currently are today, think back, look at everything we've discussed, and maybe come up with some predictions about where we think this is going to go. So it's been a traumatic time in the industry of SEO for the past couple of, let's say, months, at least 1 year now. Whenever there's great volatility comes great opportunities also. So with everything that changes, there's always an opportunity which arises. And we are entering, I think, the era of people looking for their answers that traditionally they would get on Google in other forms of content across different platforms. But there's also quite a lot to look at when identifying the different ways that they're looking for things within the platform which we're currently optimizing. And you can be shocked if you're focusing on the SERPs in a particular niche in, let's say, the iGaming industry, in, I don't know, the UK market, the differences in different products and different kinds of searches and intents, and as they appear in other markets also. So rather than go through all of the, let's say, large tools, we want to kind of democratize how to evaluate SEO again. So, I mean, when things are moving so fast and so rapidly, and there are so many changes to the way that people are behaving, the technology providers trying to update things to react to this. They're also trying to cut out the middlemen and the affiliates and also the content creators themselves. So there really is a war going on online. And if you just focus on one specific niche, you can get blinkers on and forget about everything else which is going on out there. So what we're going to do today is like a bit of a special edition where we're going to actually be going through these search results live on some keywords that we've already pulled up. Okay. Which range from informational to comparison and so forth. And we're going to go back to the days when we were learning SEO, right? So this is basically in the States, okay? So I have my VPN set to California. And effectively, what we're doing over here, we've pulled up a couple of searches already, which range between the different kinds of intents and different products that we pull up. And we can start going through them and just literally getting a feel for the search results, because I feel that a lot of the time we're just so obsessed with our tools and going through things through data at scale rather than through the nitty gritty of what's actually happening on the search results that we might be missing the point. So Warren, can you confirm for me that you can see my screen?
I can, yes.
So
I'm excited to learn how jellyfish reproduce right now.
yeah, so this is a really crazy search query, right? It's the first one, which is like pure informational. And as you can see over here, we're starting to see not only AI snippets, but we're also seeing featured snippets over here, followed by some other features, such as people also ask, questions and answers. These are being pulled from sources such as um, Quora, Reddit, then going into video. So realistically, the first actual organic search result that we have with traditional search marketing over here, effectively, I don't think many people are going to scroll down beyond there. I think most people will either get their answers or watch a video or be satisfied enough with the reproduction
Yeah.
cycle of jellyfish to say, hey, I've had enough. Maybe I'll go somewhere else.
It's interesting to see. I think particularly in Europe, in most cases, we're a bit blind to the fact of how Google is changing, particularly in the States. It's going to launch new features first in the States, and this to me is clear evidence to that. So we do not get AI overviews yet. We do get UGC, so it's interesting to see their Reddit and Quora. We know about the deals that they've had with Reddit, for example, that Google has had with Reddit. And in most of the searches, I would presume that we're going to see quite a few UGC results. And to the point that you made, like people are not going to scroll down, we're seeing desktop here, let alone if it's on mobile and it's a quick search that you want to do. That AI overview at the top is going to give you sort of the fastest way to have that question answered, which is what Google in essence tries to do, right? It tries to give you the best answer for what you're looking for. The question would be how accurate is that at this point, and how do you as an SEO, that if you have a website about jellyfish and your jellyfish is your passion and it's a hobby, how do you become visible here when Google is going through and serving AI overview results?
Yeah, and I mean, even there's a concept called ad blindness, right? So if you're cheap like me and you don't enjoy paying for subscriptions for YouTube and these kinds of aspects, you technically live within advertisements, right? And I mean, it's not only as a joke because I'm cheap, but I mean, our core, let's say, driver and actual job is at the end of the day advertising. So whenever I'm on a boat or just driving around and people start hearing my Spotify going into the free version and ads playing, everyone looks at me and says, Sean, you're not paying for Spotify, seriously? I'm like, yeah, but I'm learning how people are advertising on the platforms right now. So I have a unique interest in understanding pre-roll, mid, how these things are being monetized, at which stages of YouTube videos are the actual creators setting themselves up to introduce an advertisement. So these are all really good indicators which we have. And I feel like the more that I live with advertisements, the blinder I become to them. And this is actually a concept called ad blindness. And I also feel that when you're getting the content over here in an AI overview, the more that you start to trust it over time, so the better it gets, the blinder you're going to start becoming to the actual sources of information that have put in the hard time and effort to generate that content to begin with. So I do feel like we're at the very beginning over here of a, let's say, revolution or evolution of how things are going to be progressing. I think also looking at the power of Reddit, Quora, and other user generated content, I feel like Google understands also that they're going to need to get their content from somewhere if they're going to be producing it on the page and not rewarding the particular publishers anymore. I think that we are going to see a shift in the way that people are going to start generating content as opposed to how much clicks they're getting and the amount of revenue which they're generating. So we had a team which could generate X amount of revenue from the amount of clicks which are being provided on your website. Suddenly that X amount is reduced by half. All of a sudden you have less resources to produce the same amount of level of content and quality and so forth. So this is quite scary, I would say, looking at first an AI overview, then a featured snippet, which, let's be honest, certain countries had quite a lot of problems with in this particular scenario. Then going to people also ask, then going to Reddit, then going to videos, and then going to actually, the sources of information. And what's really interesting over here also is that we have, you know, scientificamerican.com. Now, I haven't checked this website. We can actually click on it live. We have websites which seem to be quite, uh, let's say, detailed and niche experts on the areas and topics which they're writing on. Right after that, Reddit, some random dude writing about how jellyfish reproduce, marine biology. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
struggling to see where we're going with this, right? Um,
And if, for example, we're doing reports and you mentioned us looking at tools. So if you're pulling up your search results on Ahrefs, SEMrush, or any of these other tools, you're just going to see that you are, for example, in position two. But position two here means 3, 4 scrolls down. So if you consider visibility and SERP real estate, and if you want to convert, even being in top positions sometimes is not even enough in these cases.
Yeah, and it goes back to a let's say a philosophy that there previously was on Google, right? That people trust position one on Google. I mean, I'm not so sure I can trust position one on Google anymore. I mean, right now it feels like it's position one on Google is an experiment. It's no longer the de facto expert. So how this is going to so would this create more opportunities for people who are ranking below? I'm not so certain, but we can move on to the next keyword, which is another informational keyword. Is Budapest safe for tourists, right? How about you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing over here, Warren?
I mean, it's good to see if I was to search this as a potential tourist, the first result is government.
Hmm.
So one might think, that is trustworthy advice. And then just below that, we're seeing Reddit results. So as a searcher, I do like user generated content. So I want to hear about other people's experiences because
Hmm.
sometimes it is difficult to trust companies because each company is there ultimately to make money in some way or another. So they're going to have a particular angle towards that. I think with Google's move towards UGC, what they want to show is similar experiences from people who have searched those types of searches, or show topics where there have been discussions among other people who are showing that. Um, so it's a mix. We're still again going to the UGC. There's Reddit, there's Quora. First result is it's a Gov UK website on a US search. So that is quite um, curious to me. I'm not sure
Hmm.
how relevant that would be, but I
And
guess Gov UK has information that Google is deeming good even for US citizens.
yeah, and it's quite interesting because I mean this is just I mean I know we're saying that there've been a lot of updates and there have been, but it's all building on the principle of BERT when it was introduced, I believe in 2000, was it 2017 or 2019? I don't remember exactly.
I'm not good
But
with dates, I wouldn't know.
yeah, I always miss events also. That's why my partner handles everything for me. Otherwise, I'd be useless. Never show up for anything. But when you think about the principle of what that did, it started trying to tackle the longer tail keywords. So if you're going to try and, let's say, search for something like pick up prescription drugs for friend. So this is weird how people search like this, but people do search like this. Prior to that, you might just get, I don't know, the pharmacies near you. But then subsequent to Bertie started getting all the policies from the pharmacies, the pages for the policies, which in particular started tackling the particular policy for pickup of medication on behalf of someone else. So over here, what we're seeing is it's actually building up on that. So, it's trying to find authoritative websites which are talking about the crime rates, and it's understanding that safety is related to crime. It's understanding that the correct sources of information are most likely governmental over here. But it's also now what we're seeing, which has differed over time, is that, as you mentioned, we're starting to get, which is, as you mentioned, quite peculiar but also relevant information from forums that random dudes have written alongside real governmental websites. So it's a little bit of a, I mean, dichotomy when you look at it, having something or something from a news website to something which is, completely unverified. But at the same point in time, this is just, building on the situation that Bert wanted to build up towards all those years back, but also create space to start giving real user reviews while AI has come in and effectively in 2023 or at the tail end of 2023 broken the internet to an extent. So I
Yeah,
think we can all understand why it's going in this direction also.
and it's quite interesting that there is actually no AI overviews in that search result. So obviously, safety is
Mm.
it
Hmm.
is an informational search, but it is it's a YMYL question at the end of the day, to make sure that if you're traveling, you are safe, there's no risk towards you. So I wonder if that's the reason why there's no AI overviews. Because with Gemini, they could have easily summed up what people are saying, what the government website is saying, and say Budapest is a very nice city and it's relatively safe, and it's just petty crime that you need to be aware of. But I guess there's more weight to such a question.
And just to also make a point over here, also, as we start looking through this, everyone, this is the second search query, informational based, where we've seen both Reddit and Quora on page one of Google. Okay, and these are completely random, unrelated search queries. Okay,
Yeah.
think about that. 2 out of 2 so far. Let's see how we progress moving forwards.
What's funny, actually, the UK government has better SEO than the US government, because UK government is in position one and the US is in third.
There you go. So maybe you know what we need to and I mean, even if we look at,
Let's
yeah,
show
if we
them
look at
how to
even
outrank the Brits.
okay, we'll take note of this and we'll be contacting this particular website subsequent to this to try and help them out. So let's go on to how much does it. So this is we're still in the informational space, okay? So how much does it cost to replace a roof? And over here now we're starting to see that. I mean, in the previous search results, I don't think we had ads. Did we have ads over here?
I
So
don't
no
think
ads.
so.
It doesn't look like anyone's making money on advising people how jellyfish reproduce, or whether it's safe for tourists to travel in Budapest. But now we start to see an informational search query where there seems to be money, because people do seem to be advertising over here, and they're not the normal ads which we're used to a couple of years back, right? They're starting to get more descriptive. There's more information over here. And again, before you even see the first search result, which just happens to be a featured snippet, which keeps people on the Google search results, we're talking about 1, 2, 3, position 4. Position 5, people also ask. Then we go to Forbes, and oh, look who's here. Koran Reddit, exactly
Yeah.
after that. Um, Warren, what are your thoughts?
I mean, this type of SERP is completely new to me. What I'm noticing is also it's two types of sponsored ads. So you have the traditional ones below, but at the very top, it's Google guaranteed roof installers. So that's quite interesting. I mean, if you fix roofs and you want to capture people who are searching for fixing their roof, I guess this is the place to be. I'm not quite sure. I've never seen this type of interface, at least in Europe. And
And
we can see there's like services for every sort of requirement, essentially.
so again, over here, this is very, very important for us to mention also. We didn't stay, we just loaded these up before the pod started and said, let's review it live so that you could get our live reaction. So, myself and Warren typically work in European markets, and we typically work within the sports and iGaming niches, although we both have tackled technology, we both have tackled some forms of e-commerce and some other niches also, real estate. But when you talk about these particular niches within the States, I mean, Google is an American company, okay? So it's going to test things out in a language which not only they understand, but the people who are qualifying the search results understand, in a market which they're comfortable testing in. Then once they see the results of these search results, they will start rolling them out into other markets also. So within the European Union, sometimes we see things a little bit later. So it's very interesting, I think, for everyone which in this pod to take off your blinkers and open up your eyes to what's going on in the States right now. Take a look at these SERPs. Take a look at the way that you can advertise. Take a look at the different features which have not yet been enabled in either Malta or the UK or other markets which are, I don't know, in different languages also, such as Germany, Sweden. So there are definitely going to be opportunities which arise out of these progressions, but when they hit, they're going to hit hard, and you're going to see your traditional advertising being pushed down below this Google guaranteed sponsorship, below the typical search. I mean, even the advertisements are going to be the traditional ads are going to be pushed down, as well
Yeah.
as then all of these other features which are being triggered, which we know about, but not to the extent where we see Reddit ranking in every single SERP within the European markets. And now
What
we
was
come to some,
interesting, going
yeah.
back to that previous search on, the first result is it's saying sponsored, right? But it's you can click through it and keep discovering stuff on the sponsored space,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is in itself quite interesting. I'm not sure whether is that are the only the top results sponsored or everyone who is listed here is sponsored, and they're adding Google guaranteed, Google screened. And that's I mean, would I trust Google screening on fixing roofs? I'm not quite sure about that.
I mean, I trust that Google will take people's money to have this checkbox over here, so that much I trust.
Probably.
Yeah, but it's also quite interesting because I mean even PPC is competitive, and there is a certain level of optimization on the pages, on the ads, and I do believe as time goes by, more and more clicks are going to go to the paid search results and less so to the actual organic. And it does look as though the paid search results are starting to become quite competitive in themselves also. So even the optimization practices within the paid search results, although they've always been competitive, it looks like the game is starting to change to the point where it's going to get more competitive over time. And maybe some of our colleagues and ourselves also will start paying more attention to the page search optimization and maybe start shifting away from the organic also as we move along. And now we come into, let's say, the comparative, so not review, but looking for, information and comparative search results. And this is quite cool. So this is quite different to what we see in the online casino niche, as an example, right, Warren?
Absolutely. I mean, this is again testament to Google wanting to keep users on their website. It's a fully fledged shopping feature with filters, with different categories. You can even you have kind of quick toggles at the very top, so it's probably related to what people are searching. So you have wireless under $200 with microphone. I'm referring to like above the sponsored sections. So that's quite interesting, actually. It seems to be pulling results from various websites, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and it does. So this is the advertisement. So it's pulling ads from different websites over here.
Yeah.
Um, and over here we can see New York Times is ranking quite highly. Again, here we go. I mean, have we seen a single SERP which doesn't have Reddit mentioned at this stage, Warren? Um,
Not yet. That deal that they cut with Google is surely paying off. And it's not just that they are not search results that are appearing at the bottom or after a number of scrolls, right? It's in front of you. Top two, top three results, there's always Reddit.
Yeah. And I mean, I can tell you, I'm quite a technology buff, so I love looking into technology. I mean, I would literally just every single month check out the new televisions and all of the reviews. I like my televisions. I don't even want to change them, but you know, I'll just do it because I'm a nerd and I enjoy these things. And I know that our things, Tech Radar, CNET, these guys are generating some crazy reviews. So PC Mag, I mean, so we're talking over here about giants. They
Yeah,
run, analyses on these. They run analyses on these products across, hundreds of different variables and data points. So we're talking about something extremely comprehensive over here. And then you just have a dude on Reddit, effectively, or a couple of dudes commenting, and that getting a position above these guys who
yeah.
have invested so much in the technology to review the particular black levels, clouding, trading effects. Yeah, and then you have these dudes. I mean, I think about it also because when you're reviewing something, typically, and you're trying to think about, this is the best. So you're like looking for a comparison. You're looking for the best one. So you're looking for like a rating system, right? That's what you're looking for. I mean, I typically tend to move more to personal brand as time goes on, which I think is going to become more powerful also as time goes by. So I prefer, rather than hearing an organization talk about a like Arting, CNET, and TechRadar talk about these kinds of headphones, I prefer listening to the people that either work with them or the particular individual. So I can also understand why these kinds of search results, I mean, if it didn't make sense for them to be here, even with the deal, they would get worse search results. People will spend less time on Google, and suddenly they'll go to different platforms. So I guess that's also something to consider, that there is some kind of validity to having these kinds of search results there also.
100%. I wonder if it's a result of Google search quality decline, where
Mm,
we see, New York Times, CNET, Artings, PC Mag, and so on. Although they might have, invested a lot of time and done a proper review, we see a lot of websites copy those types of structures. So it has
mm-hmm.
become very formulaic. We even tend to see this in food recipe types of searches where it's a huge wall of text and then you get into the recipe after having spent certain amount of time on the website. And I wonder if consumers have fatigue of those types of searches and they would rather see what people are actually saying about the products they want to buy after having used them for a certain amount of time. Because we also know, yes, the person who might have been reviewing headphones at PC Mag might be an audiophile, but he's only testing a product for 1 week, 2 weeks maximum before he moves on to the other thing. He hasn't lived with certain products, whereas users on Reddit might have. So it becomes more, people are not buying every single headphone that comes out, although that is wishful thinking from my end because I do love headphones. But I want to buy headphones that are going to last me for a while, and I doubt I'm going to get that from the rating and the review from a high authority website, despite how good that is, who have only reviewed that in a short amount of time.
Yeah, I completely agree with you here. And while I'm scrolling through this and listening to you speak, I mean, think about the implications of, let's say, the iGaming niche where you have casino affiliates and best online casinos UK as an example. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, you start getting over here side features such as bonuses, um, payment terms, deposit methods, games, and all of a sudden, the SERPs on the casino industry start showing up bias. Now, I don't think we're going to go in that direction, but thinking about it, I don't believe that there's regulation in many of the US states, so maybe it's a bit behind over here, maybe not even worth checking at this stage. But think about how this would disrupt the current affiliate
100%.
game if we go from having affiliate sites which rank in the top 10 listing, effectively being a top list on having top lists while being a top list on the Google search result, suddenly going into the criteria in these different search refinements. I mean, that would change the game. So it's something to think about also. Not sure if it would happen, but we'll see how things progress. So yeah, and we keep on going into these search results. So again, I mean, nothing really new over here. I
More
mean,
of
we're
the same.
seeing
Yeah.
it's more of the same. Yeah, I mean, again, Reddit, here we go. Um, so over here we've triggered something else, and well, sponsored in a new tab. Over here, this is more of, let's say, the ad blindness, which I think will start to progress over time. What's this? Best electric toothbrushes for sensitive teeth. Okay, so this is talking about something which is, I think it requires a little bit more expertise. And over here, we're starting to see that this is maybe more on the medical side. Or rather the expertise side. So as we can see, when you start having search results, at least, which have some kind of health attribution towards them, there is sort of a difference in the format of what's being produced. So over here, it's like basically like you know, it's like a filter you'll find on a website, but across all of the websites. Over here, it's typical search results, but with a sponsored advertisement with different backpacks which are showing up, and then popular products below. So it is similar to the first one, but then over here it's quite a change. What do you think, Warren?
There's quite a lot of sponsored is
Mhm.
what I'm noticing. And although there is Reddit, it is a bit more subdued. So it's more
Mhm.
towards the bottom, and it's like it even has labeled discussions and forums, but it seems to be pushing more authority based websites and shopping websites like Best Buy, where you can actually go buy these products. It's a bit of a different type of way of presenting it.
Yeah, and something interesting also is when we're looking through these search results, I know we're mentioning Reddit Quora, Reddit Quora, Reddit Quora, but you also have to bear in mind that, I mean, at least from what I've been seeing, the websites which do rank in page one of Google seem to be highly authoritative websites, which are very well focused within that particular niche. So just because we're seeing all of this, let's say, fluctuation in the way that Google is presenting data and presenting SERPs, doesn't mean that those traditional or, let's say, niche expert websites are not being rewarded. They are. It just seems like there's a lot more competition from way faster methods of gaining rankings rather than the typical building high quality assets and following high quality processes. And that brings us into the next one. So now we're going into the review category. And yeah, let's just scroll through. and see what we're doing. So this looks a little bit, let's say, more traditional at this stage. So Fitbit charge review 6. We have Google 8 pixel review, maybe less traditional with Reddit as number 1. And then over here we have Tuft and Needle Mint mattress review. Okay, so let's get through them and see what we have over here. So we have NBC News. Okay, so a news website. What's it talking about? Just out of curiosity over here. So a news website which seems to have a shopping category on it. Okay, which is effectively an affiliate page for different for this product to be purchased online. Going to P2, which is people also ask, The Verge, which I think is quite a good source of information. PC Mag, the traditional good sources of information that you would normally find. But then when I'm scrolling through, what are you seeing over here on the right, Warren?
That's quite curious. That's what, as you were going through the the standard results, I was like looking at that view on the right, which seems to me, if I'm seeing things correctly, it's another shopping interface essentially. So you can
Effectively.
also filter. You can it's sending you to showing you different listings from different websites, from Fitbit themselves, from eBay, and price comparison as well. So it's doing again the job of the affiliate to a certain extent within Google search. It's just presenting it in a different way than what we just saw with the headphones search result.
Yeah, and even if you look at this, I mean, these over here are not sponsored, okay? So these are organic. So
Yeah.
over here, it means that there are ways that you can optimize your either Amazon stores, eBay listings, to trigger these search results, and for Google to collect this data from those sources of information to then present to you. And it's quite peculiar also over here that it just does seem to be from those. It doesn't seem to be trusting other sources of information other than the producer themselves, eBay and Amazon. Over here,
Yeah.
there is one though.
Newegg.
Newegg. Yeah.
But also, it's another popular brand, very popular brand in the US for buying electronics. And even to me, that NBC result in position 1 is quite curious because, I mean, NBC is not a technology review website where a website such as The Verge and PC Mag are typically more associated with that. But people in general might be more familiar with NBC News. So
Are we
the
seeing
power of the brand
are we seeing a Parasite article over here?
could be, but
I mean, you make a very, very good point over there. What validity does a news website have to promote affiliate links of a
is it an old
particular?
article?
I'm not seeing the date over here. Not seeing it over here either. There don't seem to be any date information in the article itself at this stage. There are ways of
What
obviously identifying this. So
what
there's a
happens when
news
you click
website.
on the buttons
Mhm.
to buy it? There was those three links,
Let's
I
check it
believe.
out.
It's Amazon, Walmart.
I mean, this is an affiliate link.
Yeah,
To me, this looks like this looks like
somewhat
Parasite SEO.
parasitic. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, somewhat parasitic article utilizing the power of NBCnews.com to be able to promote something as a Fitbit charge review. Now, not saying this is the situation, but we've been seeing, at least in the iGaming niche and some other niches, quite a lot of examples of Parasite SEO working. We also saw that Google went and had quite a harsh view on Parasite and issued a lot of manual penalties. So we are not saying that this website is participating in that kind of practice, but it does seem peculiar.
I mean, if they do have technology reviews, which I would presume they have on their website, I don't think it falls into the hard definition of parasite SEO.
No,
But
definitely not.
it's still quite curious how it gets more authority over very well established technology news networks.
So going over to the, by the way, if you're still with us, this has been quite a long one and there's a ways to go. Um, we are, let's say, experts within the iGaming niche. So again, stick with us because if you are either looking to get into the iGaming niche or are working the iGaming niche and want to take a look at what's out there, we have a couple more SERPs to go through where we're going to be going through these different areas and looking at this from, our hyper-focused blinker view. And let's be honest, I mean, Warren, iGaming is hyper competitive, but it's hyper competitive in particular ways. So we really hyper focus on, the backlink profiles, building out assets which help influence the search engine results. We really do not see a lot of these features which are being triggered over here within our niche, or let's say within the particular niche which we focus on. So this is quite an eye opener when it comes to optimizing in other verticals, but more importantly, optimizing in the States and how this might impact our work in the future.
Yeah, it's definitely Google launches features first in the States. I'm sure they have had certain features like the shopping cart view, the product page view has been there for a while, but we typically do not see it, particularly from Malta, because we also don't have the shops that are available in the States. So as you know, we've both been in this industry for so long, but you still see so many new things.
Yeah. So now we enter another SERP. So, I mean, we have the same review type keyword, but three different SERPs effectively over here. So over here, we're seeing Reddit being rewarded as number one. I'm pretty sure that there are quite a lot of searches around Google Pixel 8 review. So Google is sending Reddit quite a lot of traffic over here. We also have then over here, which is quite curious also, the different imagery from Pixel. So Pixel 8a comes up as an actual, let's say, entity online, which has its own Google reviews. I mean, it's even interesting how Google is pulling from different websites such as Amazon, Best Buy, Verizon, and all of these areas, which are verifiable sources of information to determine the price range you should pay for this particular website. I mean, this is just so much better than what we see in Europe a lot of the time. So I
Yes.
can't say that this is just so much from a user perspective, it's great. From a publisher perspective, it's also great if you manage to get here. But what we're seeing also is like, am I going to search, look through here? Potentially, but most likely in this particular case, my eyes are going to go over here to see first the price range, from actual websites where these are updated. I believe it also mentioned that the price range typically is taken from the past 3 months across different stores. So this is quite current. And then I would start looking at these different, let's say, reviews. So I would say this is quite an accurate and quite a good SERP. Um, I would also say that it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to click on number one because there's so much value below the fold, so to speak.
What's striking me right now is the inconsistency in user experience from Google's side.
Mm-hmm.
Almost every search has been different. And I wonder if that has anything to do with how people experience Google and whether that is frustrating. Because oftentimes when you go to a product, you expect standardization,
Mm-hmm.
whatever that might be, sort of you're expecting. If you want to see reviews about the Pixel 8, in that search results, it's showing them on the right hand side. When you were searching for the headphones, it was a different type of uh, interface that it was showing because it showed the sponsored results in that horizontal way. And I'm curious whether this is frustrating to Google users on a day to day basis. If Google keeps changing the different ways it's presenting stuff, it can cause some fatigue.
And it's quite interesting to hear you say that because, I mean, effectively, we're all part of one very large experiment right now. And just because I'm searching this on my browser from Malta with a US VPN in California doesn't mean that anyone else in the States on an incognito window typing in Google Pixel 8 review is going to get the same result for the same search. So you
Yeah.
might actually get not only across different keywords, different experiences, but also across the same keywords in different locations, or just even if you were to renew this, I mean, we can test it right now, we might get a different feature set. In this case, it doesn't trigger. But I mean, to your point, Warren, these guys are effectively Google, are effectively, and other search engines also, are just collecting so much data to understand what the user is doing. Okay. And an important note also is that the more time that people spend on Google search results, the more time Google has to, and the more data to determine what's actually working on Google. So once they click through to our website, or let's say to Tom's guide over here, so Google can collect data on how long that person has been there before they click back, what the next search result is going to be that they click on before they just abandon this page, right?
Yeah.
But the longer time that people spend clicking through on Google's interface, the more data that they get to understand whether these features are working or not. So we're all effectively guinea pigs in a very large experiment over here. And Google does want to give more importance to user signals. We've all seen this, and you can see very clearly why. Because ultimately, the more data that they get on what's actually happening, what the user actually finds relevant, the more features they can implement to keep people on the page. So they might piss a couple people off, but they're also getting data on how effective they were at retaining people on their website, or
Yeah.
at how much maybe retaining people on their website means that then people are not getting a good experience. So I'm sure that there are many dimensions to this also. I mean, over here we're looking now at wireless earbuds with long battery life. So this is like a mix between, it's a very long tail version of a product search, and effectively it's triggering, from what I'm seeing here, the exact same
Yeah.
SERPs as we had previously seen. So no point in going through that again. Okay, this is getting interesting. Very, very similar SERP, but we're seeing, so let's say on the previous SERP, which one was it? This one for the headphones, we start seeing, let's say, the product feature being triggered further down in the SERPs, while over here, it seems to be front of page. So organic green tea, we have,
We have the sponsored results at the top, but then it's the products just underneath it, right? Yeah.
yeah, and it seems to be, I mean, of course, we're seeing all of the large authoritative websites again, but we're also seeing some of the smaller guys over here get a chance. Or
Yes.
rather, maybe they're small guys to us. Again, we're looking at this through the eyes. We just want to also explain to people that, I mean, if you really want to understand Google and how to optimize, don't just look at the tools. Don't just go to your Ahrefs. Don't just go to your SEMrush. Don't just go to all of these other tools which you have, which you feel are the right way to analyze search results. You always start by understanding the particular niche and searching things live to see how things are being triggered. You might notice that maybe before you wanted to create a page talking about information around green tea, but subsequently you say, hey, there's no point because I'm going to get no clicks, because unless I have a product to offer, there's no point, right? So these are things which you need to start looking into and not get stuck into
Yeah.
the macro version of things.
I think from what I'm seeing, like overall, if there's one takeaway I would get from all of this is to build your brand entity.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever there is a product feature on Google, where there is social media that you can be present on, representing that brand, and literally spreading your brand not only on one channel, even if, for example, let's say your biggest source of customers is Facebook. If you're just on Facebook, you're not going to get too much visibility. Because what Google is showing here, even the brands that I'm seeing, are ones that have a good website, they have a good brand reputation, they're present on Reddit, on Facebook, they have their products on Amazon, on their own website, on smaller other local retailers. And I think that entity building is
Mm-hmm.
one thing that Google is definitely looking at which websites it wants to show. Even the fact that there are discussions about your brand on Reddit, it might not even be, most of them will probably not have been started by the brand. It's people using that product. But the fact that people are talking about you and you're somewhat popular and you have a product that is worth a discussion on Reddit, Google seems to be preferring those types of entities.
I 100% agree with that feedback. I'll only add that there are brands and there are personal brands. And definitely Google is still factoring in the niche experts. It's still factoring, and it's definitely factoring in the massive brands who have a lot of authority within that particular niche and are worth considering for the search results. Also consider as we move forwards, it's going to be more that this is something which will be manipulated over time. Okay, so the more that Google moves in a direction, sometimes the overall SEO community tends to take time to adapt because we get stuck in our ways. But ultimately, the only thing which wins, search is one of those beautiful environments where ultimately it weeds out, everyone who doesn't want to adapt, and the people who are front of line and change the way that they think and change the way that they do things and do start investing into different procedures over different platforms to start generating that brand presence, as Warren said. They're the guys who are going to win, right? And they're the guys who are going to start generating better search results, and they're the ones who are going to be generating more revenue ultimately and doing way cooler things.
Yeah.
I also think that as that starts happening, it will start being manipulated also highly. We already are starting to see certain forms of this. And ultimately, people buy from people and people want to hear from people. So even what we're doing right now, even just, on the SEO Club, myself and Warren talking to you about the Google search results right now, building this trust, evaluating this, coming down to the evaluation of the live SERP, not through all of these crazy tools, which might be out of reach of a lot of people. So these are areas which help also, Sean Bianco, SEO Club. What other entities is Sean Bianco associated to? Same with Warren. How are those entities impacted by the amount of conversations which we generate when we repost on LinkedIn, Reddit, and all of these other fields? So spot on over there, Warren.
Think about, however, how hard it must seem for, let's say, you had the previous search about green tea. Let's say you're setting up a small business and focusing on green tea. So you need to run your business, you need to be an expert on that product, and you might not be an expert on marketing. How hard is it going to be for you to get that visibility if you need to be present pretty much wherever there is a discussion? That is more than a full-time job in and of itself. And it's seeing mostly bigger brands here being mentioned. It's I think we had discussed it in a previous podcast or a previous panel. I'm not sure, but how harder it is now for smaller businesses to have visibility and to compete with these huge corporations. If you're alone starting your business and you're passionate about something and you need to make sure your business is fine, your finances are fine, you're meeting customer demand, and at the same time you need to be present everywhere anyone is potentially searching for you. I think that's it's definitely a tough one. So
Yeah,
it
and
it's important to consider, if people like your product, asking for reviews, checking user
mhm.
feedback, asking them to post about experiences, because what that user generated content is people's reactions to using a particular product. So if as a business owner you can incentivize in some way or another a potential customer or a customer who's using your product to speak positively about you in whatever platform of their choice there it is, I think in the long run that can help small businesses start to break through that very high and tough ceiling.
It's such a good point also because most people contact me personally when something goes wrong. So I got a bad review. How can I help? How can you help me out to because it's actually impacting my business. Okay. If it's impacting your business, don't try and manipulate the system to get something bad removed because maybe you deserve that bad review. Maybe you should focus on doing so much good work and getting your operations to integrate all of these other channels into the way that you operate that all of a sudden you have more positive reviews than negative, and suddenly that's what's going to answer people's questions, right? And you
Yeah.
see this with restaurants who ask you with restaurants, hotels, Airbnbs, who it might seem a little bit obtrusive at the beginning, a bit of intrusive that they hound you so much to write a review, but you know, think about going outside of your comfort zone and pioneer and get these reviews, get these people to talk about you. And
Yeah.
also, don't forget that there's a lot of money in the crumbs, okay? So over here, we're talking about a big search, okay? We're talking about organic green tea. So this is a very, very highly competitive, very highly, probably monetizable search. Now, if you're gonna look at this and get discouraged, bear in mind that there's a lot of money in the crumbs. And when I say the crumbs, there are so many long tail variations of these keywords, so many tactics you can put into place where you can start and build up that authority slowly, slowly, and fight for the crumbs. Don't fight for the gold mine, because
Yeah.
over here there are so many people fighting at the gold mine level. You don't even know how many of them are actually profitable. While maybe the people fighting for the crumbs, for those longer tail keywords that are very, very specific, which only niche experts will know about, which presumably as an SMB owner you are, right? That might be a better tactic for you to start with. Cool. Let's keep going on. I mean, over here, nothing new. I mean, we're talking about best brunch spots in Seattle, places a bit close to my heart. Used to live there for a while. I mean, I'm not seeing anything new over here.
Yeah.
It
Similar
seems to be,
stuff.
yeah,
Reddit
just
again. I think they should rename it Google Reddit at this point.
it,
Because
yeah,
seriously, it's everywhere.
it's everywhere. Yes, Google Ads and Reddit. You know, so
I
yeah,
think
this is
that this
another
is similar to what we've seen before, right? With the roof tiling. This is the same feature, most probably, but it's showing
precisely,
the images of the professionals. Well,
precisely. So over here you have this feature which I'm sure can be optimized for if you pay money to get Google to screen you. Licenses checked by Google partners. And this is quite cool potentially for the online casino space. So,
hmm
I mean, I'm not seeing over here online casino or casino in general. I think that it's still quite or sports betting. Okay, so it does seem to be something which
hmm
Google doesn't want to touch right now. But you know what, Warren? Google does accept money from online casinos. So online casinos do advertise. Okay, and in some cases, even when you have markets where online advertising is not allowed, online casinos still advertise there also through affiliates and let's say not so white tactics. So
yeah,
Google is receiving money from the casino niche and quite substantial amounts of funds from the casino niche in regulated and in some cases unregulated markets also. I find it quite curious how they're able to receive the money, but then they don't advertise it in the types of features that we see in these different markets. Now, again, this is the States, and in the States, there isn't much regulation, so I guess it's a little bit behind. I'd like to see how this plays out in Europe, where where there are highly regulated markets like the UK market and the Swedish market. So it would be quite interesting to see how this plays out in the future. But right now, I haven't seen this feature ever before, at least in the European markets, at least for
but
iGaming.
this seems like a service searching type of tool. I don't think casinos or sports products will necessarily this is if you need the services of someone who is in a particular profession. Say you need a tiler, say you need a lawyer, say you need I don't know, a barber, and it seems to be also location based. So here we're searching
Mm-hmm.
specifically in Austin. So it seems to be tying in a bit of local search with service professional searches. If it's
Mm-hmm.
what I
Mm-hmm.
seem to be getting here. I don't know if you need a travel agent, for example.
Yeah, that
I
is
mean,
actually correct.
this is a good way for professionals who kind of want to run their own thing or they have a small practice in a number of fields. However, this feature I don't believe I have seen this in Europe. Definitely not in Malta. I'm not sure
Hmm.
whether this exists outside of the US. I would have to check that.
And I honestly cannot wait to see how this is going to be. So whenever we see a feature in the iGaming space, we always see how do we get there, even if it's not the right place to be, right? So I can't wait to see this feature um, available in markets that we're interested in. But then
Yeah.
again, I don't think you make a point, because I was the first time I've seen this, and I don't think that this would be relevant in any scenario to iGaming, unless we're
Mhm.
talking about services related to particular iGaming scenarios, such as legal practices, you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
and yeah,
More
iGaming within that legal practice.
B2B in that sense. Yes.
Correct. Cool. Let's keep going. So, businesses. So, pet groomers near me in Miami. So, nothing abnormal over here. Okay, this is, in my opinion, a bit shocking. How to manage anxiety without medication. And
It's
we
AI
have,
review.
it's an AI overview. Because, I mean, who's better? There's no better individual to provide you with really great advice about how to deal with something completely emotional
I
and
think
something
this is
complete.
completely wrong. C- there
Yeah,
should not be an AI generated result uh, for such a query. We I mean if it's a generic query, so to speak, but it's recommending. I mean, the recommendations seem fine, but aromatherapy, there is no I don't know, reference for seeking help, for example, or professionals who can help with anxiety. It's a YMYL topic. I don't think AI has a space in that.
no, and I had a discussion about this recently, and I mean, AI is subject to delusion, hallucination, call it whatever you want. I'm not seeing anything terrible from just skimming through, but this is a completely emotional and completely, it's something which you have to experience it to be able to provide that advice. I don't believe that AI summaries are the correct approach to put into such scenarios like this, where people might be going through these scenarios and thinking that there aren't other people who've gone through this themselves also. So hearing a robot tell you what you should do, it just doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah.
So I think that
I,
this,
wa-
in my opinion,
I wonder if there is Reddit as well. I'm just curious at this point since we've seen it everywhere. There is.
yeah, and and over here, I think that Reddit has a space because people might be seeking other information from people who've gone through this before to see
Yeah.
that there are communities which can potentially help them. Um, but yes, another search, another Reddit search result, right? So yeah, and then we come to something which is what I would expect to see, from a YMYL search, such as health insurance options for freelancers. So something which is, traditional search through and through, um, where people can can make a decision for themselves after reading authoritative information from several different websites.
Hmm. Yeah, this
Curiously,
is
again,
quite standard.
I mean, have we seen a single search result which doesn't have Reddit and Quora presented over here?
It's those two. Previous search had Ars Technica, but it's quite clear where Google is taking the UGC from at this point.
Yeah, I didn't have how to create a will online, which is quite interesting. So over here we see the AI overviews below the sponsored again. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm not completely convinced that this is the kind of keyword which I would expect to see an AI overview for. I think that this is something which is quite expert based, and I would expect that this is something which you should click on search results and read the experts rather than
Hmm.
get the feedback from a robot that is effectively predicting the next best word to have over there. So, not too sure
And
about this one either.
it's citing from Forbes. So would Forbes be the news source you want to follow to create a will online? I highly doubt that. I mean, the searches that they were showing before for the service experts, right? This is a place where you should actually show that. So show lawyers who can help out, show notaries who can help out.
Yeah, this is so cool. So this is something which I completely misunderstood the first time I saw it, but now just looking at it, um, I can't wait to see this in our local search results. That's going to be quite cool to optimize for. And it's required, let's be honest.
Yes.
Something like this is highly valuable. Because ultimately, if you are a servicing company and you are paying to have yourself advertised over there, this is a very, very good place to be pay to be advertised. Cool. And that I think wraps up, Warren, our discussion
Yeah,
about the search results live right now. I mean,
that was quite interesting. It's always interesting to be on the spot with search results that we're not too familiar with because you're seeing them from a completely new perspective. And we're not working in these spaces very actively since we're working in iGaming. And it gives you a glimpse into what the future might hold. I would argue AI is definitely not ready yet in how Google is displaying it. The last two results you showed, which had AI overviews, I don't think that has a place there. And if you're working in SEO at this point, make sure you're on Reddit and make sure you're building an entity for your brand. If you're doing just work on your website and building links, I don't think that's going to be enough going forward.
no. Also build a personal brand so humans connect with humans. And ultimately, I believe that as we start progressing further, there'll be manipulation also on the brand area. And ultimately, even a human can be replicated to an extent, right? But that connection which you get from the kinds of conversations we had, the way we analyze things, that's only going to, you will feel that connection when you're watching another person and you identify them. And what these algorithms are really good at is finding the right people to watch, the right audience for your content. Just like I'm very convinced that this podcast will go live and YouTube will find a subset of individuals which resonate with the information that we're providing. And those individuals will then start building up our SEO club and personal entities also. So these are quite important practices. So I guess before we sign off from this, I think it's been quite a long one, this one. So it's been quite a fun one also.
Yeah.
Um, One thing which we can mention also is that when you're seeing two extremely experienced SEOs, okay, just going through search results live over here, and instantly what we see are opportunities, and we're seeing threats and opportunities. So also that thought process of how we're going through reviewing search results we haven't seen before and features we haven't seen before, and analyzing how we can use them. Don't be scared to try. Um, don't be scared to see something and say, how can I utilize this? But also speak to the community, speak to the people that you work with, to your colleagues, as well as reach out to other people on maybe Reddit or Quora and get more information about these different areas where you can optimize. And don't be scared to try new things, and don't get intimidated by the big boys winning at this stage, because as we said, there's a lot of money in crumbs, and there are a lot of crumbs to be had while people eat the big apples, right? So I think a nice place to wrap up would be, I mean, we've seen quite a lot. Warren, I mean, let's think about maybe not the foreseeable future, but where do you think this is going? What do you think it's going to look like, search engine optimization or just search in general over the next, I don't know, let's not even say 5 years. Where do you think this is going over the next 10 years?
I would say it will shift from being very Google specific to being more on device specific, particularly through how the big tech companies are and will be integrating AI towards their systems, towards their voice assistants, and the way that we interact. I think that is where the biggest change would be. Because in what determines how we do marketing is user behavior. And if user behavior will have a catalyst to change, and everyone has a smartphone device in their pocket nowadays, if suddenly that gets better and it can answer your queries better, then naturally the way you are going to search for something is going to change. Traditionally, SEOs have, at least in the Western world, have always focused on Google. I think it's going to become more complex in that we need to be experts in how Google search engine works, how Facebook search works, how Amazon search works. And this was something that was brought up by Charles Float in the latest podcast I had with him. He mentioned that our jobs as SEOs are going to become much harder because suddenly we need to be able to reverse engineer not just one algorithm, but multiple algorithms. And we're seeing how they're all integrating more and more. So even Google search itself is referencing results from other big search engines. Amazon is a search engine, Reddit is a search engine, Quora has a search engine. So where do you even start? Where should you rank your content? Should you rank it on Google or should you rank it on Reddit so it shows up on Google? It becomes much more dynamic, and to me that is exciting because I work in this industry, and dissecting all these different components is what brings me excitement in the work. So I think from a skill set point of view, we need to move away from only looking at what Google is doing. We need to broaden a bit our horizons and look further and really be optimizers for search in general.
I resonate with that. And also listening to you speak, I think we'll be in a situation, maybe not that far from now, maybe within the next decade or two, where people are going to be looking back at what we're doing right now or how people are searching right now and saying, so you used to have to go to different platforms to ask questions, and you'd have to go to then click on different search results, read content in a way which is not standard across the product, go through 3 or 4 different products and figure out how to navigate them and where the answer to your question was. And then maybe after you click a few times and you effectively go to a book and pick a book up, read it, put it back and pick the next one up and just get reference the chapter, you might get the answer towards your question. And I think although we're going towards the era of multiple searches, I think we're going away from the era of the publishers having their own assets. I think that the world that we're going to be looking at in the future has less to do with people owning their own websites as much as it does having a presence on the different platforms which people use. I mean, even hearing you talk when we're going through the search results and seeing that each search result has effectively, it's like being on a different platform to an extent.
Yeah.
I mean, as we start aging and time accelerates, there's one thing which is happening that no one can say is not happening, and that is that attention time and the attention span is degrading. So the more that we move forwards, the less time people have, the more dynamic our lives are, the more things that we see on a daily basis. And I don't think that people are going to have the patience to go through search results and see different websites and learn their experiences and go back to those brands and not even do it through Google anymore. I think it's going to be more about, hey, these are the top 5 platforms I go to. I go here to ask a question. I go here to get a recommendation. I go here to review someone talking, and I go over here to see someone live. And I think that's what we're going to be moving towards over time. And in the meantime, I think it's going to be super fun to figure out how all of these connect and see that progression while we're moving towards that new reality.
Yeah. I mean, humans are messy creatures by nature, right? So we are currently like skipping, as you mentioned, from one thing to another in order to get to the final purchase or to do the final action on search. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. I'm quite curious how to develop.
Great. Then thank you very much for your time, Warren. And if you have stayed this long and enjoyed the conversation, please leave us a like or please subscribe. We're going to be having many more like these in the future. We're going to be bringing in some diverse names also and tackling quite a lot of different topics. And also, please leave comments. So if there's something you agreed with, something you didn't agree with, something that you'd like us to talk about, I mean, we're constantly looking at what's going on the market, but also on our own channels and the people that we're dealing with. So please do interact with us. We will definitely take it into consideration and maybe create videos around your suggestions rather than ours, right? So thank you very much. And until next time, have a great day.
Thank you. Have a good day. Bye bye.